Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Josh and this is your stimulus check update for Wednesday, June 24th. In this video, we'll be discussing both the first and second stimulus checks, including what Donald Trump had to say himself about the possibility of receiving a second stimulus check, which is very good news. We'll also be discussing the $1,000 grant that you could receive if you have any type of business or even side hustle, and then I'll be wrapping up this video by answering some of the comments and questions that I received in my previous video. But first, if you wouldn't mind real quickly liking this video, giving me a big thumbs up, it really just helps with the YouTube algorithm in terms of pushing this video out to other people like you and hopefully helping other people like you. In addition to that, leave a comment in the comment section below letting me know whether or not you received your first stimulus payment yet or not. It just creates a good dialogue. And believe it or not, unfortunately, there are still millions of people out there that haven't even received their first stimulus payments. So it lets those people know that, hey, they're not alone. There are still other people out there that haven't even received their first stimulus checks yet. Okay, so I'm going to start this video out by discussing the first stimulus checks. Now, if you haven't yet received your first stimulus check yet and you haven't checked your bank account yet this morning, I would strongly encourage that you do so. More stimulus payments were sent out this morning on the 24th, so I'm hoping more and more people will begin to receive theirs today. Now, if you do go to check your bank account and there is nothing there, no worries. There are still going to be more checks going out every single week. There should be another batch of checks going out next Wednesday on the 31st as well. So in the meantime, just continue checking the payment portal. That is your #1 resource. I know it's frustrating. I know you're probably still getting that payment status not available error. All that means is that the IRS has not yet scheduled a delivery date. So in the meantime, hang in there, try not to drive yourself too crazy. You will definitely eventually receive a date. Remember, as long as you're not being claimed as a dependent on anyone else's tax returns, and as long as you don't have something like past due child support that could potentially offset your stimulus payment, you're definitely eligible and you definitely will receive it. The IRS is not going to forget about you, so hang in there and you'll definitely eventually receive a date. All right, moving right along to the second stimulus checks. As I mentioned in the introduction of my video, Donald Trump actually had an interview on ABC News, and he said a lot of things in that interview that I think a lot of you guys will really like. In the interview, the reporter mentioned that he had a lot of viewers in certain states that were really struggling economically, and they've already spent their first stimulus check, and if Donald Trump plans on sending out a second stimulus check. To which Trump responded without hesitation, yeah, we are. Then Trump was interrupted abruptly, which sent Trump off on one of his tangents talking about how great the economy was and how good the job growth was prior to the virus, so it kind of sent him off topic. But shortly after that, Donald Trump did mention that we will definitely be doing another stimulus check and that it will be very generous. So take that how you will. Right from Trump's mouth, he says that 1, we will be doing another stimulus check, and that 2, it will be very generous. Now, very generous can depend on each person's perspective. For one person, very generous might just mean one more stimulus check of $1,200, whereas to another person, very generous could mean $2,000. However, it is my best guess that this check will also be $1,200, much like the last one. Even the bill that the Democrats passed in the House back in May only included $1,200 stimulus payments to individuals. So I do not think it's going to be a $2,000 payout. I do think it's only going to be $1,200. The only difference in the bill that the Democrats passed back in May, the HEROES Act, in comparison to the CARES Act, the first stimulus check, is that in the most recent bill, in the HEROES Act, dependents over the age of 17 who were left out in the first stimulus check in the CARES Act would be eligible for a $1,200 stimulus payment. So is it possible that Trump was actually alluding that dependents would also be eligible for a $1,200 stimulus payment as well? Possibly, but it's really hard to say with certainty. Additionally, whenever Trump was asked how much the next check will be, he responded with, "You'll find out." So he's really not giving out any key details at this point in time, which really isn't that surprising considering the bill is not yet completed. So at this point, even though Trump says we will receive another stimulus check, nothing is yet official. The reporter then went on to ask Trump when he's going to do it or when he's going to announce the next stimulus check. Trump responded that it would be very bipartisan, meaning that both the Democrats and the Republicans would be behind the next stimulus check, and that it should be announced sometime in the next couple of weeks, he hopes. Now, while hearing that we may hear an announcement in the next couple of weeks sounds really great, I personally think it sounds a little bit too optimistic. We've already heard, and it's pretty much confirmed, that the Senate is not even going to touch the next bill until they get back from their recess in late July. So I'm not really sure how we're going to find out any announcements about the next stimulus check in the next 2 weeks when they're going to be going on vacation in 2 weeks. So I think 2 weeks at this point in time is a little bit too optimistic, but that is kind of like the motto for Trump. I believe he likes to say things that he believes will get people optimistic. So whenever he's saying that we should hear an announcement about the next stimulus check in the next 2 weeks, he doesn't actually mean that, but he just wants us to get more optimistic about a second stimulus check. Anyways, either way, this is just one more thing to be very optimistic about. A second stimulus check to the American people seems to be very, very bipartisan at this point. Nancy Pelosi and Donald Trump are both very much on board with a second stimulus check, so at this point it's almost guaranteed. Now, the only question at this point is when we can expect to receive the second stimulus payment, and my best guess is that we will receive the second stimulus check sometime either in late August or early September. And I say that squarely because the Senate is not even going to touch the next stimulus bill until they get back from their 2-week recess at some point in late July. So even if they do put a bill together and it's a bipartisan bill, meaning that the House Democrats are also on board with the bill, the earliest that really is going to pass is going to be sometime in either late July or early August. And if it passes in early August, for example, then it would be my best guess that stimulus checks would begin to roll out sometime in late August or possibly early September. So with all that said, hang in there, more help is on the way. Now, I've seen a lot of people question whether or not they'll even be eligible for a second stimulus check. And unfortunately, since the next stimulus bill has not yet officially passed, it's impossible to say with certainty which groups will be included and which groups will be not included. However, Steven Mnuchin did come out and say that everyone who was included in the first stimulus check in the CARES Act would also be included in the next stimulus checks. So that means if you received your first stimulus payments, then you should also be eligible for the next stimulus payments as well. So if you receive Social Security benefits such as SSI or SSDI, where you're on Social Security survivors or retirement, or you receive VA benefits or RRB, then you should also be eligible for these stimulus payments as well, as long as you're eligible for the first stimulus payments, which most of those groups were, as long as they weren't claimed as a dependent. Also, in the next bill, as we talked about, there will of course be other things in the bill rather than just these stimulus payments. And one notable thing that we've already talked about was that $4,000 Explore America tax credit. This is the provision in the bill where we could possibly write off up to 50% of our vacation expenses off on our tax returns as tax credits. This is something that I firmly believe that we'll see in this next bill, as it's going to be backed by Donald Trump. Donald Trump has always been big on helping businesses out, and being that this may help out those hard-hit industries such as airlines and hotels and any other industry in the hospitality industry or entertainment, it could definitely help. Now, I don't think this is necessarily going to be helping the right people because, again, who's going to have the money to travel during or even after a pandemic? But if you do decide to go out to a restaurant or maybe you go on a little mini vacation, then just keep in mind, start taking photos of your receipts. That way, whenever tax time comes around, if this provision is in the next bill, at least you'll save a little bit of money whenever you go to file your taxes. That way, whenever the time comes, you'll already be prepared and you won't have to dig through your old credit card statements. Okay, moving right along to the $1,000 EIDL grant. I know I already mentioned this grant several times in my past couple of videos, but I wanted to bring it up once again in this video just because I feel that it's super important. After all, this is free money, and I've seen several comments from people saying that it only took them a couple of days to receive the money after applying. So if you have any type of side hustle, no matter how big or small it is, just apply for this grant. You could be eligible. If you sell on eBay part-time, if you drive Uber part-time, if you have any type of side hustle, just apply. You have nothing to lose. And you can do so by clicking the link in the description box below. It only takes a few minutes to do the application, so not very long, and you really have nothing to lose here. I would recommend that you do this as soon as possible if you do plan on doing it though, because the money may eventually run out. And with that said, if you do apply and you have success with it and you do receive the money, leave a comment in the comment section below. I would be more than happy to hear about your success. Alright, so at this point, I'm just going to wrap up this video by answering some of the comments and questions that I received in my previous video. And if you have any other comments or questions for me, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. I do try to respond to as many comments and questions as I possibly can. And those comments and questions that I'm not able to respond to, I do try to pick some of the best ones to answer in the next video in video form. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the first comment of today's video. And that is from Emmy. Emmy says, "Can I receive my money if my daughter claimed me as a dependent?" All right, Amy, thank you so much for that question. And unfortunately, in the first stimulus check, dependents over the age of 17 were not eligible for stimulus payments. So since you were claimed as a dependent, you were not eligible for a stimulus payment. Now, as far as the second stimulus check goes, I really can't say with certainty whether or not you will be included in the next stimulus check, just because it hasn't yet passed. Now, the HEROES Act that the Democrats passed back on May 15th did include dependents over the age of 17, and they would also receive a $1,200 stimulus payment, but that bill is not going to pass in its current form, so we're not sure if the next bill that will eventually end up passing will include those dependents or not. All right, so the next comment today is from Calvin. Calvin says, "Hey Josh, I started getting SSI in January of 2020, and I have a representative payee, and I still have not received my stimulus check. The IRS portal still says not enough information. We tried to enter info, but Direct Express does not have an account number or routing number to add my direct deposit information. Do you have any information on this situation?" All right, Calvin, thank you so much for that comment. And since you did start receiving your benefits in the year of 2020, then you would need to go through the non-filers tool in order to receive your stimulus payment. And then you should be able to go back into the payment portal to add any information that it requests, such as the bank account that you want your stimulus payment to be directly deposited into. Now, since you usually receive your benefits on your Direct Express card, that should be the way they automatically do it, so you should not have to enter the info on there. Now, I have heard from others that if you do sign up for the online banking through Comerica Bank, and that's the bank that's attached to your Direct Express card, that you can go into the online portal and it'll have your routing number and account number in there. And if not, if you do have another bank account open, you could always add the routing and account number to that bank and just receive your stimulus payment on that. And then from there, you can just withdraw the money from the bank or keep it in there, however you best see fit. All right, so on that note, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up this video. If you did enjoy the content in this video and you'd like to see more videos like it, please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. It is completely free to do so, and I would really, really appreciate the support. Also, if you would like to receive one free stock valued up to $500 from Robinhood, click the link in the description box below to claim it. And until next time, I'll see you guys, and I hope you all have a great day today.